In the bustling city of Accra, there lived a girl named Abina. Abina was 16 years old and came from a very rich family. Her father, Mr. Mensah, owned a big company, and everyone knew their name. Abina had everything she wanted. She lived in a large house with many servants, had the nicest clothes, and even got driven to school in a fancy car every day. But there was one thing that made her unhappy. Abina didn't care much about money. She liked helping people. She often saw people on the street who had nothing to eat, and it made her feel sad. Abina's father wanted her to learn about business and one day take over his company. But deep in her heart, she wasn't sure if that was what she wanted. At school, Abina's teachers always told her how lucky she was to have such a bright future. But Abina wasn't excited about the idea of running her father's company. She had a different dream. She wanted to help people who were poor and struggling. Her best friend, Efua, often listened to her talk about these dreams. "I just don't think money makes you happy," Abina said one day during lunch. "I want to make a difference, not just run a big business." Efua nodded, understanding her friend's heart. But Abina knew her family would not understand. They believed that wealth was the key to happiness and success. One day after school, as Abina was walking home, she saw a boy sitting on the sidewalk. His clothes were old and torn, and he looked hungry. Abina felt a tug in her heart. She walked up to him and asked, "Are you okay?" The boy looked up and smiled weakly. "I'm fine," he said. "Just a little hungry." Abina quickly reached into her bag and pulled out a sandwich. "Here," she said, handing it to him. "What's your name?" "My name is Kwame," the boy replied, taking the sandwich. From that moment, Abina felt something special about Kwame. She didn't know what it was, but she wanted to know more about him. Abina and Kwame began talking more after that day. Every time she passed by, she would look for him, and they would chat for a little while. Kwame told her about his life. He lived with his grandmother, and they didn't have much. His parents had passed away when he was young, and now he worked odd jobs to help take care of his grandmother. Abina felt sorry for Kwame, but he never complained. He was always smiling and full of hope. "You're so brave," she said one day. "I don't know if I could be so strong if I were in your shoes." Kwame just shrugged. "You do what you have to do," he said. At home, Abina's parents were busy planning her future. They often talked about her going to university abroad and learning more about business. But Abina hadn't told them about Kwame. She didn't know how they would react. She kept her friendship with Kwame a secret, afraid they wouldn't understand. Her father, Mr. Mensah, was always focused on money and success. "You are going to be the best businesswoman in Ghana," he would say. But Abina wasn't sure if that was what she wanted. She was starting to feel more and more torn between her family's wishes and her own dreams. As the days passed, Abina spent more time with Kwame. She loved hearing his stories and learning about his life. Kwame had seen many struggles, but he was always hopeful. He had a dream of becoming a teacher one day so he could help other kids who didn't have much. "I want to give kids like me a chance," Kwame told Abina one afternoon. "We all deserve to learn and have a better life." His words touched Abina deeply. She admired how someone with so little could dream so big. It made her think more about what was truly important in life. That night, Abina lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling. Her mind was full of questions. What was the point of having all the money in the world if it didn't bring happiness? She thought about Kwame and how he found joy in the simple things, like a good conversation or a warm meal. She realized that her feelings for Kwame were growing stronger each day. But she also knew that her family would never approve. They wanted her to focus on school, business, and the family's future. The thought of disappointing them weighed heavily on her heart. One weekend, Abina had an idea. She could help Kwame, even if her family didn't know about it. She decided to gather some clothes and food from her house and give them to Kwame and his grandmother. Early on Saturday morning, she filled a large bag with rice, canned goods, and some of her own clothes that she didn't wear anymore. When she arrived at Kwame's house, his grandmother greeted her with a warm smile. "Thank you so much," she said, her eyes filled with gratitude. Kwame couldn't believe it. "You didn't have to do this, Abina," he said softly. But Abina just smiled. "I want to help in any way I can." That evening, as Abina walked home, she felt something she hadn't felt before. It wasn't the same feeling she got when her father bought her something expensive or when she achieved high marks in school. This feeling was different. It was a deep sense of joy and purpose. Helping Kwame and his grandmother had filled her heart in a way that nothing else could. She realized that being rich didn't just mean having money. It also meant having love, kindness, and a heart full of care for others. As Abina and Kwame's friendship grew stronger, rumors started spreading at school. Some of the other students noticed that Abina was spending time with someone who didn't come from a rich family like hers. They began to talk behind her back, making fun of Kwame and calling him names. One day, one of the girls, Akoshua, confronted her during lunch. "Why are you hanging out with someone like him?" she asked, her voice full of judgment. "He's not like us, Abina. He doesn't belong in our world." Abina felt angry. "He's a good person, and that's what matters," she said firmly. But deep down, she worried about what her family would say if they found out. At home, Abina's father continued to talk about the family business. "You will be a great leader one day, Abina," he said during dinner. "We need to focus on getting you ready for that." But Abina wasn't sure if she wanted that life anymore. Every time her father mentioned the business, her heart sank a little. She was also starting to feel confused about her feelings for Kwame. Could she really love someone her family wouldn't accept? Could she choose a life that went against everything she had been taught? These questions kept her awake at night. One day, as Abina and Kwame were walking together after school, Kwame shared some troubling news. "My grandmother is sick," he said, his voice shaky. "She hasn't been feeling well for a while, and we can't afford to take her to the hospital." Abina's heart ached for Kwame. She knew how much he loved his grandmother and how hard he worked to take care of her. "I'll help," Abina said quickly. "We'll figure something out." But inside, she wasn't sure what to do. She couldn't ask her family for money without raising questions. Later that night, Abina sat down and thought about Kwame's situation. She didn't have much money of her own, but she knew people who did. Her father's business partners and her parents' friends were wealthy. Maybe she could organize a fundraiser to help families like Kwame's. The more she thought about it, the more excited she became. She could do something meaningful, something that combined her love for helping people and her family's connections. This could be the answer, she whispered to herself. The next day, Abina shared her idea with Efua, her best friend. "I want to hold a charity event," she explained. "We can raise money for people who need help, like Kwame's grandmother." Efua was impressed. "That's a great idea, Abina. You're using your position to help others. Your parents should be proud." But Abina wasn't so sure. Her parents valued business and success, not charity. Still, she decided to go ahead with the plan. She started reaching out to people and gathering support for her event, hoping it would make a difference. As the charity event drew closer, Abina knew she would have to tell her parents. She couldn't hide it forever. One evening, she gathered her courage and spoke to them during dinner. "I'm organizing a charity event," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I want to raise money to help families in need." Her father frowned. "That's a nice idea, Abina, but you need to focus on your studies and the family business. Charity is good, but it won't build your future. Abina felt her heart sink. She had expected this reaction, but it still hurt. Even though her father wasn't excited about her charity idea, Abina didn't give up. She knew that helping people was important to her. That night, she stayed up late, planning her event. She wanted it to be perfect. She made a list of guests, picked a date, and started designing the invitations. The next day at school, she told Efua about her father's reaction. "He doesn't understand why this matters to me," Abina said sadly. Efua gave her a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, Abina. Sometimes parents don't see things the way we do. But if you show them how much you care, they might change their minds." As the charity event got closer, Abina grew more excited. She knew that Kwame and his grandmother needed the help, and she wanted them to be part of the event. So, one day after school, she decided to invite Kwame. "Kwame," she said with a smile, "I'm organizing a charity event to raise money for families like yours. I'd love for you and your grandmother to come." Kwame was surprised and touched by her kindness. "Are you sure?" he asked. "We don't have fancy clothes or anything like that." Abina shook her head. "It's not about what you wear. It's about us coming together to help each other." Kwame agreed to come, and Abina felt even more determined to make the event a success. Abina worked hard to get everything ready for the charity event. She spent her free time making phone calls, sending invitations, and organizing the food and decorations. She also spoke with some of her father's business partners, asking them to donate money for the cause. Many of them were happy to help, and some even offered to attend the event themselves. At home, her parents didn't say much about the event. They still believed that Abina was wasting her time, but they didn't stop her. Her mother, Mrs. Mensah, even offered to help with some of the decorations. Though Abina knew her parents didn't fully understand her passion, she was grateful for the small gesture. The day of the charity event finally arrived. Abina was nervous but excited. She had worked so hard to make this day special, and she hoped it would make a difference. The event was held in a large hall that her father had rented for her. As people started arriving, Abina welcomed them with a smile, thanking them for coming. Kwame and his grandmother were also there, dressed in their best clothes. Though they didn't have much, they looked happy and proud. "Thank you so much for inviting us," Kwame said. Abina smiled, feeling proud of herself for following her heart. As the event went on, Abina stood up to give a speech. She looked out at the crowd and felt a little nervous. But then she saw Kwame's face, and she knew she had to speak from her heart. "I organized this event because I believe that helping others is the most important thing we can do," Abina said. "There are many people in our community who are struggling, and we have the power to make a difference. Thank you all for being here today and for supporting this cause. Together, we can bring hope to those who need it." The audience clapped, and Abina felt a sense of pride wash over her. She had done something meaningful, something that made her heart feel full. During the event, one of her father's business partners, Mr. Ose, approached Abina. "I was really impressed by your speech, young lady," he said. "I want to donate a large sum to help families like Kwame's." Abina was shocked and grateful. "Thank you so much, Mr. Ose," she said. "This will make a huge difference." The donation was more than she had ever expected, and it would be enough to help not just Kwame's grandmother, but many other families as well. Abina's heart swelled with joy, knowing that her efforts were paying off. After the event, Abina's parents started to see things differently. They noticed how happy she was and how much her charity work meant to her. One evening, her father sat down with her. "Abina," he said, "I see how much this means to you. Maybe I've been too focused on business. I'm proud of what you've done. Abina couldn't believe her ears. Her father, who had always talked about money and success, was finally understanding her passion. "Thank you, Dad," she said, tears of happiness in her eyes. As Abina and Kwame continued spending time together, their friendship blossomed into something deeper. They both cared for each other in ways that went beyond words. Abina admired Kwame's strength and kindness, while Kwame loved Abina's generous heart and determination. One evening, after a long day of helping people in the community, Kwame turned to Abina and said, "You're amazing, Abina. You've changed my life in ways I can't even explain." Abina smiled, feeling the warmth of his words. "You've changed mine too, Kwame," she replied softly. Though Abina and Kwame's love was growing stronger, their relationship faced many challenges. Some people in Abina's social circle still didn't understand why she was with someone who didn't have money. They whispered behind her back, saying she could do better. But Abina didn't care about their opinions. She knew that true love wasn't about wealth or status. It was about the heart. She stood by Kwame's side, determined to prove that their love was stronger than the challenges they faced. Thanks to the money raised from the charity event, Kwame was able to take his grandmother to the hospital. The doctors gave her the treatment she needed, and soon, she started feeling better. Kwame was overjoyed. "I don't know how to thank you, Abina," Kwame said one day as they sat together. "You've done so much for me and my family." Abina just smiled. "I'm happy to help, Kwame. That's what friends do for each other." With his grandmother's health improving, Kwame decided to focus more on his studies. He had always dreamed of becoming a teacher, and now he felt that he had the chance to make that dream come true. Abina supported him every step of the way, encouraging him to chase his goals. "You're going to be an amazing teacher," Abina told him one afternoon. "You've already taught me so much about life and what really matters." As Kwame worked hard in school, Abina started thinking about her own future. She realized that her dream was to continue helping people, whether through charity work or social services. Her father, who had once pushed her to run the family business, now supported her decision. "You have a big heart, Abina," he said one day. "And I know you make a difference in the world, no matter what path you choose." Abina and Kwame spent more time planning their futures together. Abina decided she wanted to study social work so she could help more people in her community. She applied to several universities and was thrilled when she got accepted into a top program in Accra. Meanwhile, Kwame worked hard to earn a scholarship to continue his studies, hoping to become a teacher one day. One afternoon, while walking through the park, Kwame looked at Abina with a smile. "You know, Abina, I never thought I'd meet someone like you. You've changed my life in so many ways." Abina blushed. "You've changed mine too, Kwame. We're in this together." As their relationship deepened, the challenges didn't go away. Some of Abina's wealthy friends and family members still couldn't understand why she was with Kwame. They believed she should be with someone from her own social class. One day, her cousin Yo pulled her aside at a family gathering. "Abina, don't you think you're making a mistake?" he asked. "Kwame is a good guy, but you could have so much more. Why settle for less?" Abina felt frustrated by his words. "It's not about settling for less, Yo. It's about being with someone who understands me and shares my values." She realized that love wasn't about money or status. It was about the connection they shared, and she wouldn't let anyone make her doubt that. Abina knew she had to stand up for her relationship. One evening, at dinner with her family, her father made a comment about Kwame. "He seems like a nice boy, but I don't know if he's the right person for you, Abina. Our world is different from his." Abina took a deep breath. "Dad, I love Kwame, and it's not about where he comes from or how much money he has. It's about the kind of person he is. He's kind, hardworking, and cares about making a difference. Isn't that what matters? Her father looked at her thoughtfully. I suppose you're right, Abina. I just want you to be happy. Abina smiled. I am happy, Dad. One day, Kwame came to Abina with exciting news. Abina, I got the scholarship, he said, his face beaming with joy. I can finally go to university to study teaching. Abina hugged him tightly, feeling proud of everything he had accomplished. That's amazing, Kwame. I knew you could do it, she said, her heart full of happiness. They celebrated together, knowing that their dreams were finally within reach. Kwame's scholarship was not just a victory for him but for both of them. With both Abina and Kwame starting university, their lives became busier. Abina's social work classes inspired her more each day, and she felt like she was finally on the right path. Kwame, too, was thriving in his studies, and he often shared what he learned with Abina. Though their schedules were packed, they always made time for each other. Whether it was a quick lunch between classes or studying together in the library, they found ways to stay close. Their love grew stronger, built on mutual respect and shared goals. While in university, Abina started volunteering at a local community center, helping families who were struggling. She loved her work and felt fulfilled every time she saw the smiles on people's faces. One day, she had an idea. Kwame, what if we start a project together? We can help kids from poor families get the education they need. Kwame's eyes lit up. That's a great idea, Abina. We could offer free tutoring and mentorship. I'd love to be part of that. Together, they began planning their project, excited to combine their skills and passions to make a real difference in the community. Abina and Kwame's project quickly gained attention. They named it Hope for Tomorrow and began working with local schools and families to provide tutoring and resources for children who couldn't afford extra help. Abina used her connections from her family's business to gather support and donations, while Kwame focused on organizing the tutoring sessions. The project grew faster than they expected. Soon, they were helping dozens of children. Seeing the kids thrive in their studies filled both Abina and Kwame with joy. This is exactly what I want to do with my life, Abina said one day. Kwame nodded. Me too. We are making a real difference. As Hope for Tomorrow continued to grow, people started noticing Abina and Kwame's work. Local newspapers wrote about their efforts, and even some of Abina's wealthy family friends began to offer support. One day, her father came to her with a proud smile. I underestimated you, Abina, he said. What you and Kwame are doing is incredible. You're helping so many people, and I'm proud to call you my daughter. Abina felt a rush of warmth. It meant so much to her that her father finally understood her passion. One evening, after a long day of working on their project, Kwame and Abina went for a walk. The sun was setting, and the sky was painted with beautiful shades of orange and pink. As they strolled hand in hand, Kwame stopped suddenly. Abina, he said softly, turning to face her. I know we've been through a lot, but I can't imagine my life without you. You've been by my side through everything, and I want us to always be together. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, simple ring. Will you marry me? Abina's heart skipped a beat. Tears welled up in her eyes as she smiled. Yes, Kwame. Yes, I will. Abina and Kwame's engagement was met with joy from their friends and family. Even those who had once doubted their relationship now saw how strong their love was. They began planning their future together, knowing that they would continue working on Hope for Tomorrow and making a difference in the lives of others. Their wedding was small but beautiful, surrounded by close friends and family. Abina's parents, who had once been unsure about Kwame, now embraced him as part of their family. As they exchanged vows, Abina knew she had found the perfect balance between love and purpose. After their wedding, Abina and Kwame continued their work with Hope for Tomorrow. The project expanded, reaching more schools and communities. Abina used her social work skills to provide counseling and support to families, while Kwame focused on education and mentoring the children. Together, they built a future based on their shared values of kindness, compassion, and helping others. Every day, they saw the impact of their work, and it reminded them why they had chosen this path. Their love for each other and for their community grew stronger with each passing year. Years later, Abina and Kwame looked back on everything they had achieved. They had helped hundreds of children succeed in school, giving families hope, and built a life full of meaning. Though they had faced challenges along the way, they had always stood by each other. One day, as they sat together in their small but cozy home, Kwame turned to Abina. "We've come so far," he said. "And we've done it together." Abina smiled. "I wouldn't have it any other way." In the end, Abina and Kwame realized that the greatest gift they had wasn't wealth or success, but the love they shared and the lives they had touched. Their story wasn't just about falling in love, it was about choosing to live a life of purpose, filled with kindness and care for others. Abina had once been unsure of her path, but now she knew she had made the right choice. She had followed her heart, and it had led her to a life richer than she could have ever imagined, rich in love, in purpose, and in making the world a better place. And they lived happily ever after. Thank you for watching this video about the love between Abina and Kwame. If you enjoyed the story, please give the video a like and subscribe to my channel for more interesting African folktales. Thank you.